Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec podcast, where I help you create teams worth leading. I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and consultant to tech execs worldwide, and our subject today is about photocopies. If you missed out the first session of my new free series about how to create 10x engineering teams, that's too bad, but if you email me, my email's in the show notes, and put in the subject late in all caps, I'm gonna send you the recording. Okay, I'm that nice. This is the last opportunity to get it. Now let's talk about photocopying. I don't know if you had the same. I'm still seeing it in my kids' school. Some teachers photocopy photocopies. So you have pages that you can barely make out the words in them, let alone the diagrams, because these have, with years, with iterations of getting photocopied, lost their meaning, lost the resolution, and every copy is a bit worse than the previous one. So with time, these just get worse and worse and degrade and degrade. That's what you get with endless photocopying. Another example of photocopying is what you might have seen in the headlines recently, some AI companies talking about the problem of model collapse. That's when models are being trained on data that was generated by AI itself, and those tend to see that things degenerate rapidly within a few iterations because it seems that this synthetic data is just not good enough. We're getting this mechanism that is trying to photocopy data out of itself again and again and ends up just not having enough meat to hold up. Okay, and this what happens when we lack some addition of real material knowledge from time to time. And this is the same in our line of work. I see people who, instead of trying to think, what am I going to be doing different? What new information am I bringing in? Maybe it's some innovation in our product. Maybe it's shaking up some things, trying a new way of doing things, experimenting, bringing some experts from outside, letting our ICs have some brainstorming, having a real innovation week or intermission, whatever you want to call it. Doing these things that shake things up, that ensure that we're not just stuck in a rut, but actually changing, iterating, learning, so that we don't go into our own model collapse, so that we don't end up photocopying things ad infinitum in a way that means that we're just no longer are as sharp as we can be. And this is something that I'm seeing, especially, of course, when I'm working with bigger companies, but especially as I'm seeing companies transition as startups to the B stage-ish, C stage. You're becoming more of a real company, and with that, often we start being less edgy. We take less risks. We're trying to do things on the safest side possible because everything around is shaking. I get that. I'm not downplaying how hard this is. But I am saying that if you take it too far, you're going to miss out on what sort of innovation and new information can bring to your organization if you start doing this. So think, how can we shake things up, spice them up a bit? Can you move people internally in your organization to get some fresh sets of eyes on a problem? Can you have a real meaty brainstorming session that might solve an area that has been neglected for too much and has so much potential? If you're doing these things, you're not just photocopying. You're from time to time adding a new element and starting the chain anew. So we're not just degrading endlessly. Okay, and I think that not just that this is something that's healthier for organization, it's just genuinely fun. Who wants to just be doing the same stuff repetitively, even if you think it's gonna be good enough, even if you think you've reached a stage where you know what's right? If you're trying to just repetitively do the same stuff, eventually you're going to start going down because you can't just cruise along in our industry. You have to keep reinventing things and changing things. I know it can be tough, but that's the way it is. That's where we get paid the big bucks. If you need help with that, I'm here. So start thinking, how can you break the chain of photocopying in your organization right now? How can you inject something new and spice things up? If you need some ideas, email me. My email's in the show notes. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. I'll be here next week.